Not until they're all dead. Every one of that family. Dr. Manette left the manuscript in a hole in his prison cell, which was found by Monsieur Defarge. In that manuscript, Dr. Manette condemned the whole Everymont family to death, including poor Charles Dickens, which was only 3 years old when Everymont family harassed the family. Now Charles Dickens is on trial again. Madame Defarge revenge. Lucie held over her arms to her husband. "Let me kiss him one last time." Most of the citizens had gone out into the streets to shout how they hated the prisoners, but Bastille was still there, apparently as a prison guard. "Let her kiss her husband," he said. "It's just for a minute." Lucie went over to her husband, and he took her in his arm. Dr. Manette followed his daughter and fell on his knees before them, but Dickens pulled him to his feet, saying, "Nobody blames Dr. Manette for Charles Dickens being on trial. No. Now we know how much you suffered, especially when you knew whose son I was. But you kept your feelings secret because of your love for Lucie. We thank you with all our hearts for what you did. I tried so hard to do what my mother had wished, but I never found that poor girl, the younger sister. And how could that terrible story ever have a happy ending?" Yes, that's right. He turned to his wife. "My dearest love, we shall meet again in a place where there are no worries. God be with you both." As Dickens was taken away, Lucie fell to the floor, unconscious, not awake, not aware, unconscious. Sidney Cartoon came quickly forward to help Mr. Lorry and Dr. Manette. He carried Lucie to her coach, and she was taken home. Then he carried her into the house, where her daughter and Miss Pross waited, tears falling from their eyes. There's no justice in these trials. Charles Dickens was only 3 years old when Everymont's brothers violated peasant families. "Before I go," said Sidney Cartoon, "may I kiss her?" He touched Lucie's face lightly with his lips, whispered a few words, and went into the next room. Whispered a few words. Obviously, Cartoon has a plan, and he just shared it with Lucie. "You're still very popular with the citizens, Doctor. You must try again to talk to the judges." "I'll do everything I can. Everything," Dr. Manette said. Mr. Lorry went with Cartoon to the door. "I have no hope," whispered Mr. Lorry sadly. "No have I," replied Cartoon. "After today, no judge in Paris would even try to save him. The people would be too angry. I will return here later to see if there is any news, but there is no real hope. Our only hope is Cartoon himself, because he went to a shop, bought some powders. We don't know what he's up to, but he's going to do something." He left the house, Cartoon, and began to walk quickly towards Saint-Antoine to Defarge's wine shop. Yes, he's up to do something. His face was calm and serious. He looked like a man who had decided to do something. I must show myself to the people here, he thought. They should know that there is a man like me in the city. Oh, like the Trial Old Bailey. In Defarge's wine shop, the only customer was Jacques III, who had been on the tribunal and had decided Danae should die. When Cartoon sat down and asked for a glass of wine, Madame Defarge looked at him carelessly at first, then much more carefully. She went back to her husband and Jacques III, who were talking. "He is very much like Everymond," she said softly. That's a dangerous place for Cartoon to be. And this is the picture of the wine shop. Madame Defarge, Monsieur Defarge, Sidney Cartoon, and apparently Jacques III. "He's very much like Everymond," said Madame Defarge softly. Defarge himself looked at Cartoon and said, "Yes, but only a little." Cartoon listened carefully, while pretending to read a newspaper. "Madame is right," said Jacques III, one of the judges in tribunal. "Why should we stop on Everymond?" "We must stop somewhere," said Defarge. They're talking about the trials, executions. "Not until they're all dead, every one of that family," said his wife. "You're right, but think how much the doctor has suffered. Perhaps he has suffered enough." "Listen," said Madame Defarge coldly. "Don't forget that I was that younger sister." I want to read this sentence again. Don't forget that I was that younger sister. In Dr. Manette manuscript, there was a family who was violated. There was a girl whose husband has been forced to work laboriously. The girl himself was abused. And now Madame Defarge is the younger sister of that family. And the brother was killed, wounded, and later died actually by sword. And it was my family that suffered so much from the Everymond brothers. It was my sister who died, my sister's husband, and my father. It was my brother who was killed. Tell others to stop. Don't tell me. And this is Madame Defarge's revenge. Cartoon paid for his wine and went out quickly on his way. He had overheard everything. He went back to Dr. Manette's house, where more bad news was waiting for him. The doctor's mind had returned to the past once again. Every time that he is stressed out, he becomes a shoemaker again. He did not recognize his friends and wanted only to find his old table and to make shoes. "Listen to me carefully," Cartoon said to Mr. Lorry. "I believe that Lucie, her daughter, and perhaps even her father are in great danger. I heard Madame Defarge talking about them tonight. They must leave Paris tomorrow. They have the necessary papers, and so do you. Here are mine. Take them and keep them safe with your own. You must leave by coach at 2 o'clock tomorrow. Keep a place for me in the coach, and don't leave without me. Promise that you will do exactly what I have said. Many lives will depend on it. Keep a place for me in the coach, and don't leave without me. Promise that you will do exactly what I have said. Many lives will depend on it. I promise, said Mr. Lorry. Unconscious was the only new word from this chapter. We are on the verge of finishing the book, as there are only 2 chapters left. Chapter 12 and finally chapter 13 will be the final chapter of this storybook. There isn't shown to be a happy ending.